He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
Attention, citizens of Fair Gotham, and welcome once more to Bat Minute and Robin, the show that does everything the hard way. I am one of your hosts, John Parker.
And here I am, a guy who also was going to do a joke about always the hard way. But what's one of the other lines in this minute? Nah, forget it. Yeah, I'm Niall McGann.
I love it. I finally got you. You always steal what I'm going to say without you knowing. You do it all the time. And I finally got you back.
That we have to go in to do the introductions, then have a backup introduction in case the other host does that introduction.
Hey, I'm not writing two. I don't even write half of them. I just come up with them on the fly, which makes me sound clever, but I'm not, as you know. We are joined, though, as usual, by a very special guest. So today, joining us is a Bat Minute newcomer. It is Lizzy Garcia.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you for joining us. It's exciting to have a newbie. How many newbies have we had this season? A couple.
Yeah, we've had a few. We always have a few. It's just weird because then the first and second season there was like all newcomers, and then third season is like there's one or two in there, and then this you get your usual roster, but sometimes it's nice to inject some new blood into the system.
Yeah.
So.
We do it deliberately. We've got to keep it fresh.
but yeah, Lizzy. Like up front, we always ask the guests because Batman and Robin, obviously, very divisive movie. We always kind of like to gauge what angle they're coming at it from. So, like, what do you actually make of this movie in general?
I mean, it doesn't. I think it makes people viscerally angry. It does not make me viscerally angry. I do think it is bad, but it has fun moments. However, unfortunately, I do think Joel Schumacher at times can be a very boring director.
Oh, whoa! That is not an angle I was expecting. It's so flashy. It's like boring was never a thing I would consider it to be.
Issue with Phantom of the Opera, so but it's okay.
Okay,
I can see it, even though I love this movie. I know I'm in the minority. It's fine. I can see it because it's almost like he does stuff that's very surface level cool, right? That when you actually think about it, it's like, well, that's not really that interesting though. It's too much. Well, I need to introduce the minute though.
Of course.
It is minute 113, and it starts with hacking and it ends with ice cracking.
Yeah, this is a minute where Batgirl quite literally gets to shine. This is like she gets the big hero moment, essentially kind of saving the day altogether. Like throughout the whole climax of this movie, who solved everything? Batgirl, kind of.
Which is refreshing. And actually, Lizzy, what do you feel about Batgirl? Because we've been a bit torn. We like that she's here. Some of it's not done well, and it feels a bit like they're almost too eager to be going girl power without actually giving her any substance.
Yeah, she's unfortunately in this movie, Babs is very one-dimensional. She doesn't have she's like a shallow pool. It seems like a great time, and then you get in and you're like, what do I do?
That's this movie.
But I do appreciate there are some calls here to Oracle, which I think has always been Babs's greatest role in regards to the comics themselves.
It does seem like they are setting up for a sequel that she's going to kind of go more into that role.
Yeah. Well, they'll look you because people don't know you, Lizzy. You're like a writer.
Yes.
Written many articles, and you've written quite extensively about Oracle and Barbara Gordon. But like, why is it? What does the character of Barbara Gordon mean to you?
Well, I am disabled. I'm hard of hearing, and I also have quite a few other physical disabilities that sometimes make it hard to move and just live life. So Barbara means a lot to me. Her work as Oracle means a lot to me, as well as the disabled community. So I think people understandably are wildly protective of her. So I have written about her being wildly protective of her, usually in criticism to decisions DC has made more recently. But I think Barbara is proof that heroes are not just people who wear capes. I think Barbara is as Oracle is more powerful than the Justice League. She's proved that time and time again with the Birds of Prey in the comics. She is absolutely one of the most powerful assets that Batman and the Bat family have within Gotham, as well as the Justice League at times. Her ability to play both sides a little bit, and her ability to just think for herself and not always necessarily follow the Justice League beat for beat has kept her grounded and has also kept a lot of things out of trouble. Because unfortunately, the Justice League is led by a lot of himbos, and himbos are not smart, as this movie has clearly shown.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
They capture some of that, I think, in this movie. Obviously, not enough. They capture a bit, though. You know, she's independent and she does her own thing. She doesn't really even listen to Bruce or anything.
Right.
Yeah, 'cause the period that this film was made, though, like in the 90s, was kind of like a golden period for Oracle, because it's when she emerged as, you know,
Yes.
obviously Killing Joke happens at the end of the 80s, and then the early 90s, the Suicide Squad's storyline introduces Oracle and is eventually revealed to be Barbara Gordon. And like, it's just all the messaging, the way it was written, particularly by Kim Yale, who did you know, the sort of origin story of Oracle in was Batman Chronicles 5 or Oracle Year 1. Because all these things have to have multiple titles every time.
Oh yeah, the more the better. Put 10 on the cover.
Yeah, but they even the way they dealt with like how the Killing Joke even played out. Like there's a scene in that where, you know, flashes back to just immediately after Barbara's injury, and Batman goes to visit her for, like, you know, the first time, and like one of the main criticisms of you know, her treatment in the Killing Joke is like, well, she's been fridged, essentially, with Gail Simone.
Yes, she has.
And even back then, in like 1995, in the text of the comic, Barbara turns on Batman, and it's like the worst part of it is that this wasn't because, like, he didn't come after me because I'm Batgirl. He was just coming after me to get to my dad and to you, and like I was just a pawn. And like my identity doesn't matter to the Joker, and that's kind of like the worst part of the whole thing, is that like it just completely it was a non-entity to this guy. And then the fact that she will then turn around, and, you know, people always say that they like Batman as a hero because he's like, well, you know, he's one you can actually aspire to be because he's not got superpowers. So it's kind of
aspire to be if you're a millionaire, billionaire,
and white.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But yes, there is that issue. It's like, well, he doesn't have superpowers, but like, you know, you could be this intelligent if you tried. And it's like, well, yeah. But at the same time, it does have like billions and billions of dollars, so you couldn't really be Batman. You could be like, I don't know. No, you couldn't even really be Daredevil, because then he has the super hearing and all this kind of business. But the thing is, Barbara Gordon is kind of a person who, you know, when she decides to be Oracle, later on, she obviously would have, you know, Wayne funding, and she'd be living on the clock tower and have friggin' loads of money and resources then. But at the beginning, it was literally just a lady and a computer. And then throughout the 90s, she becomes like the most sort of important character to so many DC characters, because she has her fingers dipped in all the pies. She's helping out the Justice League. She's helping out all the heroes separately. She's, you know, an information broker throughout the entire DC universe. And it's like, yeah, and she is literally just a lady. Like, and she just lady tapping on a keyboard. And this is how, in many ways, it's almost more inspirational than Batman, because like you could actually be this person, and then and then actually factoring the disability factor then is just like, well, that's even more on top of it's speaking for that community, and that you can overcome these things and actually live a very, very rich, fulfilling life despite anything that might have happened to you and stuff.
I always say that you can never overcome an ability because it's always going to be there. It's not usually curable, but you can adapt to it. So I think what Oracle and what Babs has done is she has adapted to her life now. Because it takes time to accept that. It takes time to say, I'm never going to be who I was. And you have to mourn that. I lost a lot of my 20s when I got sick, and I mourned that, and it sucked. And then you adapt to it, and you change, and you grow from it, and it always is part of you, because it takes so much of you, just like it is always going to be part of Oracle. So I think the idea that she adapted to what happened, she became what needed to be in order for her to still fulfill what she wanted to do, is important. And also I think it's so important because she had a support team beside her who wanted to make her dream accessible. I think being disabled sucks, not because of my disability, but because I live in a world that doesn't want to make it accessible for me to be disabled. That's always the biggest challenge. And I think most disabled people will tell you the same thing. And an interesting thing about kind of the evolution of Oracle is through the years, you will actually see her wheelchair design has changed. When she was first drawn, she's actually drawn in what is called a transfer wheelchair. So that's something you see patients being pushed around in a hospital. Eventually, readers reached out to comic artists and authors because they loved Babs so much and said, hey, this is actually what a living wheelchair looks like. So eventually artists were able to draw, you see there's a shorter back, bigger wheels, easier to maneuver, easier to make 360 turns and so forth. So you see more accurate representation of disability because of that. I actually spoke to Gail Simone about that, and it was really interesting to see and hear how she took input from the disabled community in regards to Bab's design, the things Bab wears, the finger gloves she uses, and so forth.
Well, that's amazing to hear that they actually, took that on board and were like, oh, okay, let's make this better.
Yeah, it just makes it even crazier then when it comes to like New 52. You know what?
I know.
We're taking it all back.
I know. It's wild.
It's like we got 3 other Batgirls out there, but nope, we're going back to the Barbara Gordon out and about as Batgirls.
Well,
which is
people
also
had a lot
really
of problems with that.
Which is also really frustrating because I think people forget that you can easily say that Cassandra Cain is also in a way disabled. I mean, she has most of her scenes with people, most of the time she is nonverbal. She is not able to communicate the same way you and I could because of her intense trauma. That's a disability. It's maybe one we don't always recognize when we're reading a comic with Cass, but that is a disability. So her, working with Steph, working with Babs, working with whoever, and being able to read each other, that's something that comes from intense trust and understanding. And it's sad that that was never a focus they went with. Instead, they, Barbara had to get legs like she's Ariel.
Yeah.
Oh,
the New 52 has a lot to answer for.
Yeah. I like the outfit, but that's about it. Yeah. Should also, if anyone's ever curious and doesn't know, because we always talk so much about like when referencing like, the Joker and Barbara Gordon, it's always about, you know, the trauma he inflicted upon her. And then obviously had a couple of years ago the very controversial cover where, like, you know, they had like this kind of bright optimistic Batgirl comic line, and they had to put the cover of the Joker on there, sort of reenacting the killing joke. It was just like, you know, left a little bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. But people might be happy to know that, of course, the Barbara did get, not like a, you know, plotted revenge against the Joker, but she did eventually have a reconfrontation with him in Birds of Prey 1, 2, 4. And you know, he comes in knowing, oh, it's Barbara Gordon. It's like, that's right. I to get to your dad. That's right. I came in and I shot you and stuff. And he's kind of gloating because it's the Joker. And
It's kind of his thing.
Yeah, and then she has the very powerful line where she's just like, "Oh yeah, I came in, and I took your whole life away from you. What about that?" And she turns around and says, "Like, you know, you took nothing from me." Because now, as Oracle, she's almost like the best version of herself, essentially. And then she gets to knock out his teeth with the baton. So, kind of her revenge against the Joker is robbing him of his smile. Which is, you know, at the end it's mentioned that, like, oh, they found a dentist dead, so the Joker probably has a repaired smile. But
yeah, it's comics; they can fix anything.
Yeah. But no, she has a little inner monologue saying, like, yeah, but when he looks in the mirror, he's gonna know that's fake. Like, it's, you know, the preening narcissist like the Joker, that'll always bug him that that's not his actual smile. And stuff,
so she's victorious ultimately.
Yeah. So. But, you know, it's just a little more positive. Babs she did get a revenge, so that's nice. Yeah, a nicer note there.
Much deserved. But in the minute here, Robin isn't happy because the device, the computer here, is that screwed up that they're gonna have to sort of fix it upside down.
Yeah.
Which I just thought was funny because I don't know, it just seemed extreme and 90s and whoa, radical, it's upside down.
I was kind of hoping, though, because, like, oh, he's part of the Bat family. You can hang upside down. Like, what's your problem there? Bruce Wayne, Vicky Vale woke up in the first movie. He was hanging down upside down just for shits and giggles.
Bruce should just say that. Leave it to me, kid.
He should be like, yeah, come on, kid. What are you doing hanging around this house here? If not hanging around upside down, at least. Come on, man.
Well, Barbara, though, great line, I think. Men, everything the hard way. Because she fixes it in a split second.
It literally goes into settings. Yeah. screen flip.
It's like when people at my work are constantly like, "Oh, John, what do I do? What do I do? The printer's not working." And it's like, I could just fix it with one button press. There you go.
She basically just flipped the PDF.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when, you know, any boomer is like, I don't, millennial.
Yeah.
Useless generation. Fix this. And then you fix it. And they're like, thank you, useless generation. And
yeah, still useless somehow. Yeah.
And you stare and you're just like, really? Really?
Yeah.
I am also of of millennial age, but I kind of like almost Barbara's line almost barbed me, because I was just like, I am the guy who would be like, this is probably very fixable if I just sat down and worked out how to press 2 buttons, but I'm like, no, I'll just do it the hard way. And just like anything on like even Audacity or something, I was like, I'm sure there's a simpler way to do this, but like I won't spend the 2 seconds sitting working out like, oh, you just need to do that. And I've had like phones for like years. And then near the end of their life, I was like, oh, there's a little button here that you just do this thing very easily. I didn't know that was there.
So you're as useless as Dick. You're a useless Dick. Okay.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, I am a useless Dick. But yeah, so when Barb said that, I'm just like, hey, come on. You know, sometimes it's just, you don't see the forest for the trees, Barb. You know, just leave us alone, all right?
Tell you what, though, you wouldn't say this, Niall. He comes back with quite a sexist response, I would think. He's like...
He might be, though, like, oh, she started it. You know,
well, I think that's what he's thinking. It's got him angry, so he's decided to default to a little bit of sexism, where he's like, you're pretty good at this, little girl.
This is all very much the fight fire with fire kind of mentality. It's like, that always works, right? Fire, add more fire, gets rid of the fire. Okay, so yeah.
Well, how else would you fight it?
No. But yeah, so she, you know, again, goes in, just literally flips the screen and does some just amazing hacking, where this literally takes 3 seconds to realign it. I'm surprised that she didn't think of this. It's so simple. You think she would have been the first thing she did when she came into the room. It was like, oh yeah, just done.
You've got to think about these things. You need a plan.
Yeah. But yeah, there was slight changes in. I know in the novelization, the you're pretty good at this, little girl. We'll get a load of this, little boy. It's just her hacking and going like, well, Miss Genius, Madame Genius. Oh, I'm not too sure which one suits me best. It's
okay.
a nice little playful thing. Then I don't know why they felt the need to add in some sort of misogynist commentary.
I think it's supposed to be light-hearted banter. I think it's supposed to show that he's kind of teasing her.
Yeah,
because he likes her. Because she does come back with her own good one, as you said. Watch and learn, little boy. That's a good line.
I don't think that's what I would come back with. Mine would have a slew of curse words. I'm gonna be honest. I would
just want
say
some...
a different B word.
And it would be totally justified. Robin is a jerk.
She could just be like, all right, you do it then. It's like, let's see you go, little boy. But
because we know she knows what she's talking about and what she's doing.
That's the thing, though. Like, and time and time again, we have to bring up, like, Alicia Silverstone is a good actress. We've seen her in other things be a good actress. And yet, there's the level of snark she brings to Batgirl. There's just no chemistry between her and Dick. Like, they had like a similar relationship you were seeing with her is in Clueless.
Yeah.
When, of course, we talk about Clueless all the time in the show.
Well, because it's great.
Yeah, but when her and Paul Rudd are on screen together, it's a teasing, like, oh, this guy really bugs me, and he's always making fun of me. But you can tell they secretly like each other underneath it all, which is what they're trying to go for here with the relationship between Dick and Babs. And it just really comes across like she just genuinely can't stand this kid.
Don't blame her.
She's just like, oh my God.
They
It's
just
like,
always feel like strangers. Like,
I don't know if it's just because they don't, but they do spend enough. I was going to say, they don't spend enough time on screen together because they didn't get a sequel. That shouldn't matter. They had scenes together, and it always seemed as if like she was barbed. She was very, very defensive. She always seemed like she just had no time for Bruce Wayne, his mansion, his whole lifestyle, and now she's happy to be Batgirl, I guess. But she just seems like she doesn't really like the guy she's working with either.
It's interesting that. I don't think it's down to the actors. I think it's all the script. I think they just don't know how to do it.
I think you probably could, though. It might just be the direction. Like, again,
the direction's not great at it. I don't think it works on paper, though. I don't think they haven't written the scenes that would make us go, oh. Yeah.
I don't think I call all Bat Boys by their full names. So like I say Timothy instead of Tim. I don't think Richard sounds like Richard. Like he doesn't feel like Dick Grayson to me. Especially like Dick and Babs is like my everything. I own Birds of Prey #8 where they're on their date.
Oh.
It's like, even though it's Chuck Dixon, it's a sacrifice I've had to make in my life. I will live with the guilt. It's fine.
We'll let you off.
I was like, I donated to ACLU. It's fine. But so like Dick's more quippy and less whiny.
Yeah.
That's a failing of this version of the character. Even in the last movie, you just want to smack him.
This version of character is like when Jason was 11. Like it's not.
But which just kind of works for an 11-year-old, not for a man who's clearly this
like 25.
That's what it makes him extra annoying.
Yeah. I think he's actually 27 when he's making this too. This guy is married and has a child. Like that's where he's at in his life.
He comes off as like the just personified version of like a reply guy.
Oh my God, we need to make some kind of T-shirt about this.
That'd be great at the end of Batman Forever. It's like, oh, what's that stand for? Reply guy.
Oh, he's a new villain.
Oh my God,
Batman's greatest nemesis.
Reply guy.
That was also a thought too I had, where going back when Barbara's like, "Oh, men, always the hard way," and just like, I was just thinking like, Uncle Alfred, you could have just told me that you were Batman's butler. You didn't have to create an artificial intelligence to, and have me hack into a whole goddamn system. Why didn't you just tell me, for Christ's sake, when we were in the bedroom?
You've got to earn it.
Yeah. So maybe that's why she's just so fatigued. She's like, I had to friggin' hack it. The guy could have just said.
Did anybody else get like extreme anxiety when his password was just 3 letters?
Yeah, like these days, there's no way a computer would let you do that.
No special characters, only 1 capitalized letter. Like, I was just like, Alfred,
what are you doing?
understand you're ill. However, there is no excuse.
Yeah, maybe it came up on the computer, time to renew, change your password. And he was feeling really rough that day. So he was like, yeah, whatever, I'll just put Peg. I don't care.
Well, we had a whole lot of speculation back then that Alfred probably knows what's going to happen. So there was the thought that maybe he's trying to make it as I know you're going to open the CD-ROM, and I might as well make it easy to hack for you.
It's not really hacking. Guess the password.
It's just guessing.
And I always got a slight vibe here too when because the Dick comes down and he's like, oh, you're pretty good, this little girl. We'll get a load of this little boy. Or sorry, watch and learn. I keep saying get a load of this.
Get a load of this.
That would have been even more 90s than get a load of this.
I was thinking more like Joker in '89.
Oh,
get a load of me.
Oh,
but
okay.
But then there's a little look that Dick does to Bruce, and Bruce is kind of looking back like, oh yeah, as if they were almost like, let's see. As if Bruce was like, I could have done this, but I want to see her do it. I want to see, let's see what Barbara can do. And it almost has a slight vibe of Dick's going like, hey, he's looking over like, what do you think, huh? It's so as if this was even though they're supposed to have seconds to get this done, as if this was a slight test.
Yeah, it's not really the time to be testing your staff.
Yeah. It's although Bruce might be like, hey, in mid-crisis, I need you right there, so this
Sink
is the
or
best
swim.
time.
Yeah. Either you do it or the whole city dies. Go ahead. And I think maybe as well, he's thinking, you know what? I could get rid of this Dick kid and just keep her around. She's much better.
100%. All of these 2 movies are a testament to just why is this version of Dick Grayson there? Because it's just Bruce could be okay, so quarterly review. Bringing him in after Richard, so listen down. First movie you were in, did none but piss and moan the entire time. Finally became Robin, instantly got kidnapped. Okay. So this movie, when I told you not to do something, you did it anyway, got frozen. Criminal got away. All right. Then go over here to Barbara, and she's been here 6 seconds. She defeated Poison Ivy single-handedly. And when all this happened, she was the one who realized, I have no need for you at all.
Not only did she do it, she came up with the plan.
Yeah.
She enacted the plan.
It really is just Robin, Bloodhaven's beautiful this time of year, I understand. Here's a bus ticket.
Yeah. She can fight better than Dick.
Yeah. Although that was a weird thing I read, going through random, trying to find stuff we haven't covered about Barbara. And I found a weird quote from Yvonne Craig, obviously played Barbara, the original Barbara Gordon, back in the 60s. And she had a whole thing about she was really against Batgirl fighting because she thought it was not feminine.
It's the 60s. That's also when they redesigned Wonder Woman to have heels and that Brady Bunch hairdo. So I don't.
Well, she's a woman. What do you mean? That's what women wear.
So I mean, so this is 1967. There's an open or a letter to the Associated Press, and she says, and while Batgirl is an active type, she's also very feminine. None of that smacking people low with karate and gung fu. In my opinion, 3 karate chops and you've lost your femininity. If a girl goes on a date and a fellow gets fresh, you can't very well give him a karate chop for a good night.
Wait,
but if she
what?
ducks,
I thought got fresh was a negative.
Yeah.
I thought that was he grabs you.
Yeah, that's totally what it is. But if she ducks, she's simply adept and feminine. Batgirl will be aiding and assisting Batman and Robin, not constantly rescuing. I like that. too. And then she went on to say that the reason that Honey West, she said like the reason that show got cancelled is because she was going around clobbering people all the time and it wasn't very feminine. I was
Back
like,
then, that might
oh.
actually be true, though. That's the sad thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just so weird. There's this window back to like, I guess it's 50 years ago now, but it's like, oh man, the times, hey, they have changed since then.
I appreciate that she had to write the Associated Press. Like, this is breaking news. I also appreciate that, according to this, you can do 2 karate chops.
Oh yeah,
and
there's a
still be
hard limit.
feminine. You just got to be really specific with your karate chops. You just gotta, you gotta get them good in those 2. No more.
She
Just
worked
2.
that out scientifically. She's like
Right.
gone through all. She's
Right.
done the studies and everything. It's like no, 3, no, 2.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine.
Imagine a scenario where, like, she's already used 1, and then Batman's in a trap, and it's like, Batgirl, use your karate chop. Like, I don't know, Batman.
I mean, this is my last one. It's like D&D spell slots.
Does it replenish once you rest at a tavern? Like,
Well, that's the thing. Is it once a day, or is it like is it twice in your whole lifetime? Like, how many karate chops? Like
How
one
many
of
do you
these,
get?
2 a season. That's the whole thing. It's like, sure, you had the 1 season, so you might as well. Although one of the things too, because a shared look between Bruce and Babs. We covered a lot of the history with Barbara and Dick Grayson, the comics in the past. With yet to touch upon the very iffy territory of Bruce and Barbara. I don't know if that's an aspect you're like, I don't want to even think about.
I mean,
all that.
I know it's there, but I don't like it.
It is.
It does creep me out.
Everything about it is. It feels wrong on every level.
Yes.
That, like, it's a thing that Bruce Timm keeps hammering home.
It's
but then
like
even he.
It's like they put the like archive tab of Dead Dove Don't Eat, and they just published it.
But it's weird too, because Bruce Timm keeps bringing it up, and then when he's questioned about it, he's just like, "Oh yeah, it's not supposed to be a good thing. It's supposed to be a
Bruce
mistake."
Timm has lost his mind.
Yeah.
official.
Like, okay, what was the movie? It was like Harley Quinn and Batman or something. That
Yeah,
movie is just an absolute fever dream of just. It's like if a sweaty comic book boy had a fever dream, and then that's what came out. And I watched it, and I was like, I want to leave. And I was in my own house.
He just went out for a walk in silence.
I was like, what is happening? It felt wrong on so many levels. And that's when I knew that Bruce Timm no longer should be trusted with anything. They should just put him in be like, this is your office now. And it's like the mailroom from It's Always Sunny. And he's just got his like Pepe Silva board, and he's like, look, I'm making something. And like a DC editor comes in, he's like, yeah, you're making something, bud. You're doing it.
Very good.
You're doing
Keep
great.
it up.
Instead of Pepe Silva in the middle, he's got like Brucepera.
Yeah,
It's like, that's the ship name.
That's what he's doing. That's where they should put him.
Although it is weird now though, because it's just like everyone's getting all geared up for like, oh, the Caped Crusader cartoon. And it's like, oh, it's Bruce Timm. Like,
No.
okay. And it's like, oh, don't worry, he's got J.J. Abrams there to help him. Like, oh my god. No.
Please don't.
This kid's, why, what are you doing?
Yeah, because J.J. Abrams really helped on that Spider-Man comic his kid wrote.
Did anyone here? Did either of you ever read that? I never.
Yes.
No.
No.
Oh, you did? Oh, wow. What did you think of it?
Well, at the time I was working as an editor who was, reading and editing comic reviews and video game reviews. So I had access to everything Marvel gave us, everything DC gave us, everything Boom and whoever else. And so I just read it to read it. I was just like, I mean, it felt like a 16-year-old wrote it, like, obviously. And it's like,
I actually
don't
prefer that then. That's as long as JJ didn't screw it up.
I was just like, I was like, there wasn't one woman available? We needed a 16-year-old boy. I've always wanted a woman to write Batman.
Yeah.
And a woman, there's actually a Batman novel written by, I think, Marie Lu it's one of the young adult novels. It's a novel, so not a graphic novel. And it is excellent.
Oh, okay.
And I have always wanted to see a woman on Batman. I've always thought maybe Kelly Sue DeConnick or Gail Simone, someone who's known
Ooh.
for having horror tendencies, who's written creepy, who's, you know, done things in that realm.
I'm on board for this.
I just think having kind of a different perspective on Bruce would be really interesting, you know, because we're always used to seeing broody Bruce. And I mean, right now, the Bat Family webcomic on Webtoons is written by a woman, and it is spectacular. Mind you, that's not spooky, and I do love a horror comic.
Yeah.
That is just delightful. It's very much like Little Gotham, if anybody read Little Gotham. It's delightful. I highly recommend it.
It is so odd though, going through looking into the relationship though between Bruce and Barbara, because it is actually in the inception of the Batman TV show back in the 60s. Like, the producers would be saying, like, well, Batman, you know, they're going like, well, there's this Batgirl now. What's going to happen there? And the producers are like, well, Batman would never get a romantic interest because he's too square. He's too dedicated to justice. But Bruce Wayne, on the other hand, like hinting that that might be a thing between, and then the
heroes don't do that.
Exactly.
Heroes do.
Yeah. I can't wait to see the next season of Harley Quinn. Like, there's no way they won't address that somehow. They'll have to work a joke in it about somewhere. but it's so because in the Batgirl pitch movie, the one they made, the little short, the pitch to the network, there's instant chemistry between Bruce and Barbara there, and then it's even so weird that, like, the we mentioned a couple weeks ago that, like, the first time that they were ever seen together as a proper couple, like, ever. Well, you know, Dick and Barbara was in Sub-Zero, the movie that came out after this one. And it's so strange because even in, like, prior to that movie being made, in the animated series, the episode Batgirl Returns opens with her essentially having a wet dream about Batman while Dick is outside the window calling her name. And it's like, oh my God, this is so... It's a weird thing it's always been there, but it's like the fans have just always said no. and even though it was there from, like, you know, arguably an inception, it always feels wrong, and it's always like, never do, just leave that.
Nobody wants it.
Nobody ever wants that. Like, but they keep coming back to it as if, like, oh, this is the thing, right? You know, we work this into a Batman Beyond comic where it turns out Bruce got Barbara pregnant, and you're like, who is this for? Like, who are you trying to appeal to? Like, this is garbage, man. What are you doing?
Oh, thank God this movie doesn't go there.
Oh God, yeah.
The one we found a positive about this movie. Yay.
Exactly. That's what we're here to do. There's
Good job.
always positives.
Good job, team.
Yeah, that's
We're
Uma
digging them
Thurman.
up.
It's so odd though seeing all the let's speak of that, because, like, you get all these shots of Gotham defrosting.
Oh, I have questions about this.
But the one thing, because looking in the making of book, and they go into the whole big thing about, like, oh, how they designed the city, and they had to, I imagine at the time, mid-90s, this would have been, like, revolutionary stuff where you think, like, oh, it'd be standard now, but they're like, yeah, usually you'd build models, but what we did is that we created what they called a mathematical model in the computer, where that's where they did all their designs, so they created 3D mathematical models of all these buildings, then made miniatures, and then they would heighten because they said they wanted all the buildings to be 2 to 3 times bigger than the tallest skyscraper in New York. And so to do that, they're like, well, if you made that as a miniature, they would be 90 feet tall. So what we had to do is make them 30 feet tall and then stretch them in the computer. And so much effort went into doing all that. And it's like, I mean, I guess it's pretty tall. Yeah.
Gotham in this movie looks like a Disney dark ride.
All the lighting is just insane. I love the lighting, but it's crazy.
So we just get, like, you know, Gotham now gets defrosted. 1 million suede coats are forever ruined after this.
Oh, those poor coats. But my big question is, right, okay, they instantaneously turn back to normal. So there's no ill effects? There's no brain damage?
I mean, that's not how freezing someone works. But sure.
It's so purely.
You have to defrost. If someone was frozen like that and they were still alive, you would have to defrost them incredibly slowly. You would have
That's
to
what I
very
thought.
slowly do it. And then you would have to immediately like hook them up to like life support.
Wouldn't this cause all kinds of?
Yes.
Like the freezing alone would cause problems, but the way
think,
you
yeah, the-
defrosted them.
The shock of your system of like,
Yeah.
I was
You would-
frozen. And
I feel like you would have a heart attack from the shock.
Yeah.
oh, yeah. Yeah.
That'd be quite a good twist, actually. They go through all of this, and it's like, oh crap, we killed them all.
Because they had, we're talking to Kiri Galligan, and she was just like, well, the temperature you would need to defrost people at that rate too, it would just scorch their skin as well.
Yeah.
Like they would all fry to death. Basically.
And this is directly from the sun that they've enhanced and beamed into people's faces.
I don't know how long they're going to leave it like that too. It's just like, this is supposed to be midnight. It's going to mess up people's sleep schedules as well. It's just like, it looks like it's daytime outside, but it's like, oh, are we in Alaska now? What the hell's going on?
Couldn't sleep properly for 6 months.
You're gonna have like
But-
you're gonna have a Batman White Knight thing where everybody sues Batman when they get skin cancer.
That's the
they should.
sequel to this. Is just all in the courtroom.
Well, maybe that's what he's doing. He's like, oh, no, I didn't do that. That was all Barbara Wilson over there.
Let her take the fall. Yeah.
That's why he was hanging back. He's like, I could have done it, but like,
Hey, that's like Charles Manson's defense, wasn't it? Well, I didn't do anything. It was
Should
my
also-
followers. They chose to murder.
We should also mention as well, actually, the past couple of weeks, we're constantly talking about that keyboard been upside down that they use to control the telescope. And then when Dick says, like, oh, we're going to have to do this upside down, it's like, that's the right way a keyboard's supposed to be, Dick. Come on.
Maybe they're getting confused. Yeah, maybe they just needed to flip the monitor all along.
He's just like, oh, having the space bar at the bottom was actually way handier, Bruce. And Bruce is like, all right, I'll look into this. But I am also slightly shocked that like when they realign all the satellites and they get all this big design of beams going down, that it some way doesn't make like a bat symbol or something. It really feels like something they would have put in, where it's like, if we can get these to somehow create like a bat logo in the sky with all the beams coming down, can we? Like, I would imagine maybe they were like, can we do that? Like
That would be wonderful.
You'd have to really go out of your way to make that. Like, it would just look weird, man. But it's like, all right, we'll just have it be just generic straight lines. Or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, anyone have anything else for minute 113, or are you ready to move mosey on?
Noted out here.
I think we've covered the whole minute to the best of our ability.
But yeah, Lizzy, because Batman Robin, obviously one of the most reviled films ever made, we are asking the guests like what the worst film they've ever seen is. So do you have one to hand?
Yes.
Oh.
Sucker Punch.
Oh.
I want my money back, and I didn't pay to see that movie.
Now, you know what? Yeah, I've heard a lot of people really, really hate that. I don't think I've seen the whole thing.
It's so bad.
I know it's getting a reevaluation. People are like, "Oh, it's just misunderstood as a film and stuff." It's like, I don't know, man. It's just...
I don't know. It like I realize now, like, there was a wave of feminist movements where it was like, you're mean to mainstream things teenage girls liked because, we were always just mean to teenage girls. So, there's very much a like, I'm sorry, Stephanie Meyer, I was too harsh on you kind of thing. Like, I'm realizing that, but I guarantee if I watch Sucker Punch again, I will just be angry because it's still Zack Snyder. And so far, bless his heart, I have never liked a Zack Snyder movie.
Oh, okay. And it very much, what I remember of what I've seen, it looks like a Zack Snyder movie. It feels like one.
Yeah. And I mean, Watchmen had its moments that I appreciated, but at the end of the day, you change the ending and I don't appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm a defender, but I also get why people don't like that. I don't really like him as a filmmaker, but I like Watchmen.
I will say the intro to Watchmen is one of the best things in cinema, like ever.
That's
I will
great,
give him
yeah.
that. I will give him that. He deserves that.
But considering he just copies it like panel for panel, pretty much, is that on him
Yes.
really?
I mean, maybe not, but I do think when you are adapting something to a new medium, you have to change things in some way or another. Maybe not necessarily the story, but like when you're making a comet, you're not considering an angle of something that's 3D, you know, with live actors that are moving. So it just feels like you got to do a little bit more for me here, buddy.
Yeah,
it
he
is
does
wild.
well.
It's wild to me that I have seen Patrick Wilson on Broadway.
Oh, really?
I saw him in Oklahoma. That man has 2 Tonys to his name.
Amazing.
I love
Two-Tony Patrick. That's what they call him.
I know.
Patty Two-Tone.
I love that man. I think he's a fantastic actor. So I did enjoy the acting in Watchmen. I think I think Watchmen is by far his best movie. And if Watchmen is on television, like I'm probably going to sit there and watch it. It's not my favorite thing. It's not, if on list of superhero movies, it's probably not going to make top 20, but it's not bad by any means.
But yeah, to then sway things into like to end on a more positive note, Lizzie, we always then do ask, because Batman and Robin is beloved by, a lot of people, we're asking about films that you love that are considered to be bad by the general population.
So I have one, and it is Jupiter Ascending.
Okay.
Eddie Redmayne was in that movie the same year he won the Oscar for The Danish Girl, and he won a Razzie for Jupiter Ascending. But I like to switch those, and I like to think he actually won the Oscar for Jupiter Ascending, because to me that's less transphobic.
He did actually apologize for even playing the part, didn't he? Recently,
he did recently. But now he's playing like a drag queen in Cabaret on the West End. So
as if there aren't enough drag queens
to play a part. Yeah. So he's
Okay.
doing great. But anywho, he plays his part in Jupiter Ascending like a chain smoker who has very bad asthma. That movie is bonkers. It's perfect. There are no redeeming qualities. You will learn nothing. You will lose brain cells. It is worth it.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
Sold. I'm going to watch it tomorrow.
It's fantastic. Like,
It's so weird too, because we've actually recorded the next episode already earlier today. We just recorded out of order, and we had a big, massive conversation in that about Tuppence Middleton. I'm like, oh, she's in Jupiter Ascending as well. So it's so weird that that's like, I have to cut this part out because like, oh, this hasn't happened yet, audience. But you will hear a lot about Tuppence Middleton in the next episode.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, are there any parting words you'd like to leave before you go, Lizzie? Like any like Batgirl, Oracle comics you'd like to recommend for people, or anything you want to say about the character or this movie in general before you go?
Let me Google it really fast so I have the name correct, because there is an Oracle graphic novel that is fairly new. Yes. Okay. So the Oracle Code is a fairly new graphic novel. It's a young adult graphic novel. It is a kind of alternate universe Oracle origin story for Barbara Gordon. Doesn't really include any connection to her and Batman. Highly recommend it. It's really, really good. It's written by a disabled woman. It is excellent. Other than that, I would just hop into pre-52 Birds of Prey. In regards to my ideology of comics, if you see something that looks cool, just pick it up. You're going to be confused no matter where you start. It's okay to be confused. That's okay. Just stay confused.
No, that's really good.
You're going to be confused no matter what. Just have fun with it.
That's really good advice, because I had that problem. I mean, listeners know I come to Batman through the movies, unlike Niall, you come from every angle. So I got into reading the comics much later, and that was always the worry throughout the years was, well, I don't know where to start, though. What do I do? And after a while, I just was like, you know what? It doesn't matter. I'll just buy whatever the next issue is and just go. And it's fine.
if it really does bother you, like if you're really just that concerned about, I can't just start in the middle. If you start with graphic novels, so like completed comic runs, and just find a volume 1. Just start at a volume 1. And if you're worried about the cost of a graphic novel of going to a bookstore, because they're a bit more obviously more expensive than a comic, a single issue.
You get a lot more for your money though.
Graphic novels are easily available at your local library. You are going to find tons and tons and tons. They also have graphic novels available to check out online at your local library. Use your library as a source. They have so much good stuff. And I read a lot of graphic novels through my local library. So 10 out of 10, use that as a source. I think a lot of people forget that libraries have graphic novels.
I do. So yeah, good. That's more good advice putting out there into the world. Normally, I would now ask if there's anything you want to plug. But yeah, I mean, you've kind of just plugged stuff. But do you have anything of your own? Like, can people get in touch with you, or have you got work coming up that you would like to promote?
If you want to follow me at all, see any comic-related post or anything of that nature, you can follow me at LizzyLynn_G on Instagram.
Excellent. So check that out, everybody. As usual, speak to us on Facebook at the Bat Minute Listeners Cave, on Twitter at Bat Minute, Instagram the Bat Minute. What else? Why don't you go to our Patreon, the Sleepy Charlie Media Patreon, and chuck us a couple of dollars, and you get wonderful bonus stuff, and you help me and Niall eat, because we are poor. So, without the Patreon money, we can't feed our families. It's very we can really. I don't want to trick anyone. We're doing fine, but
the trick
it does
is
come
we
in
don't
handy.
have a family to feed.
Yeah, actually, neither of us do at the moment. But do all of that, and we will see you again for minute 114. See you then, Batmites.
Next time, who has been pulling every evil string? It's been Pamela all along. Melting in mass gets Gotham back underway as Clooney concludes that it looks like one fine day. Slush flows in the street and Free stews in defeat. But as the mangled madman seeks a reunion with his bride via bat-assisted suicide, what recorded revelations regarding a conquisitive conspirator does the day's victor have for Victor? There's a sorry sight for an Iceman in our subsequent episode, folks. Same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute.
We'll be back.